Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Financial Fitness Friday. And today, what I thought we'd do is kind of want to give you guys what you're going to need to take advantage of some of these opportunities. We discussed how much volatility I think there is going to be, right? And we certainly see that now with asset prices going crazy, crypto prices going crazy. Certain housing markets, I think, are going to actually drop. Okay. We're seeing it. I check in with a lot of my real estate buddies. Like there's some parts of Florida that are going to drop too. So what this means is with all the volatility, all the chaos creates opportunity for everybody. Right. Dave, does that make sense?
Yeah, man, 100%. The news is going crazy, but also at the same time, like we already know what's real, what's not real, what's propaganda, and what's the real sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the real sauce is like there's a couple things that everyone has to do to be able to take advantage of this stuff, right? I'm just going to go from a broad stroke first, and then we'll kind of narrow it down and talk about like if you own a business, what can you do? Dave, you got anything for me before that?
Yeah, man. I mean, a couple things like I would bring up on here, like people probably aren't aware about, to where chaos and certain things going down, certain things obviously rise. One of the things that I don't see anybody talking about, and you and I were touching real briefly on it. I know you've always talked about it a lot in hard assets, but gold's over $3,000.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that, your thoughts, man, because like you always had a good radar on these precious metals.
Yeah. So here's the thing, like precious metals, like gold, silver, and silver was actually really depressed, like when I started buying it. And guys, when you guys heard me start talking about it, guys, and this was Dave, we've been doing this almost 3 years, 4 years now.
Yep.
Right. And then me and Brad did it a full year before that. I've been saying this stuff. Like I was buying silver $21, $22 an ounce, right? It's at like 33, almost $34 an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Same thing with gold. Like gold, I think the low I was able to get at like 1900, it's over 3,000. Now, why is this happening? Well, one, as manufacturing picks up, there's demand for these, right? They're in demand. They're needed, right? They're precious metals. Two, right? It's a hedge against inflation. Okay, and three, it's a store of value. Now, historically, gold and silver have never gone up this high, this fast, or very rarely does that happen, right? It's kind of like more like a very slow grind. But because of all the volatility, because of all the uncertainty, because of all the geopolitical tensions, they have gone absolutely bananas. So you could say the same thing for the crypto markets, right? Like, look, 2 years ago, you probably could have got Bitcoin at like 20,000. Now it's like 84,000.
Yep.
Okay. And, if you're not tied in and not tuned into these things, you might miss the boat, right? So what do we have to do? Does that explain everything for you, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you have to do now, or how do you position yourself to be ready? Well, a couple of things. First, you're not always going to have all the cash. Okay. Like that's a given, especially with how choppy and tough the last couple of years have been. I'm not saying that some people don't have the cash. Some people do have the cash, right? And if they do, they're probably still sitting on the sidelines or waiting to take advantage of some of this opportunity. What I would tell you guys is, one, you want credit. You want your credit to be as strong as possible right now. Why? Because if you see a great opportunity, that the time to strike is coming up, right? Two, you want to have cash, and you want to have cash because it will obviously open way more doors for you when these opportunities arise. Now, this hasn't changed any of the principles or guidelines that I told you guys, right? You want to kind of cut your income into into pie, right? So 25% investing, 25% savings, maybe 30% of that is your fixed stuff like your mortgage or your rent and your car payment. And then you have some discretionary income in that 20% bucket. And so you're asking like, hey, how do you set this up and how do you time these larger investments? Well, it's simple. right? I know there's a certain amount that I need in my savings account to feel comfortable, right? Over time, that number has increased, right? And that's always increased based on how many kids I have, what the average cost of things are. Okay, but that number is always going to go up. And so once I get anything over that, right, I consider investable. So let's just say if I know I need 50,000 in a savings account at all times for me to feel comfortable, and I check and it's at 80, well, guess what? That means I have 30,000 to play with. And then when I talk about having like 20 or 25% going into investing, that's something that comes out of my paycheck, every single paycheck, weekly, and goes into various different investments. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yes, sir.
All right. And doing it this way has actually allowed me, to, I think, build wealth a lot faster. Right. It makes sense. And here's the reality. Like, you're setting guidelines and rules for yourself. And as long as you stick to those rules, you're going to get the outcome that you want. Right. And this is with massive losses, right? I had a massive loss in a financial dealing with a law firm, right? I invested in a shit franchise that I lost a lot of money in. I invested in a bunch of things, Everbowl, and a couple of things with these pseudo influencers that are all full of shit. And now you're starting to see them go down. And I'm happy. Like, Aaron Wagner should go down. Same thing with Fleischman. Fuck these people. So they're all going, and you're starting to see them get arrested, even though that's not front page news. Okay. And I lost a lot of money in those things, but because of this structure that I have and that I tell you guys about, I have actually been okay. Yes. Has it hurt? Absolutely. But I can vouch and I can tell you personally that if you guys adapt this, okay, it will be a game changer for you, and not just for you, but for your kids and their kids.
Yeah, and I think the two most important things that you touch on there, it's kind of a Mindset Monday thing, not to get off track, but two things that I take out. Number one, you took the risk, right? Yeah, it didn't pan out. You took the risk. Well, what was the lesson out of all that stuff too? What was the learning? What was the kind of quote unquote investment? And the second thing is, guys, to you still got to create the habits, right? To start paying yourself to save this stuff. That's still one of those habit forming muscles that we talk about. Create that habit. You're going to create that discretionary income. Start something, right? To create the habit, just to get it in motion. Okay, if I know I got to take something even small, let's take it down to Main Street. If it's $20 a week, at least I know I'm getting the motion there. Now it's 200. Now it's 200. Now it's 500, right? Just to create the habit. I know every Friday I got to do this, or this, or set it on an auto scale that it does it automatically, but create the habit.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the thing. If you don't have these habits when you're broke, right, or when you're learning, you ain't going to have them when you're making a lot of money. Yep. I'm fucking telling you right now, it doesn't change, right? It's a mindset and it's a system thing. All right. And this is a really big differentiator, guys. I mean this. I did this since I was making $30,000 as an underwriter. Okay. I shit you not. When I was an underwriter, when I first started getting into small business lending, that's when I started to adopt some of these, right? And now I tweak them as time has gone on and time has allowed for, right? And now, obviously, I make a little bit more money than that, and the habits are locked in, they've stayed. So not only for you guys, like if you're listening to this, I teach my kids this too, right? I want them to know this early on, right? My son started a business, okay? 3D printing. He sells toys to his friends. I wanted to, yeah, dude, I'm shit you not, man. The kid, when he's on it, he'll make like $200, $300 a week. Think about that at 10 years old.
He's going to get in the fidget spinner business, man. Kids love that.
Dude, that's what he's been doing. He makes them. Text me before Monday. I'll bring one on the show. They are really cool, dude.
Yeah, dude. There's somebody here locally that makes a lot of fidget spinners, man. It's like he gave me my son. He loves them.
and this thing, he can print in like carbon fiber and all this other stuff. It's really cool, dude. You know who hooked me up with that? Roy. Hershey.
Oh yeah, Edwards.
Yeah, bro. Roy's a good guy. He hooked me up, and he will actually let Jonathan go to his shop. And for Jonathan, it is like a kid in like where how we used to view Toys R Us, right? With all the printers. And so he just goes bananas. He actually wants, instead of going to like a hockey camp, like he wants to do 1 week hockey camp, 1 week at Roy's office.
Just the new age now, like with kids, man, like some of this crazy stuff. Like my son's that same mentality. Like to him, like this engineering, the scientific stuff, these building things like that in part of life, right? Like part of civilization. Like that's their way of like playing today. And it's more constructive. I don't have a problem with it.
I love it, bro. That's so much better than the shit I was doing at their age.
Yeah, man.
Way better.
Nintendo and lights on bikes, you know?
Way better. Well, hey, look, before me and Dave get off on a tangent, guys, I'm sure this helped you guys. Please share this with someone that needs to hear it. My Facebook is absolutely being throttled for me making fun of the Clintons again. Because, hey, nobody has that many friends that killed themselves. Peace.
Be great, y'all. Ding, 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 ding.